You're 30,000 years ago. You're moving fast across broken ground, maybe hunting, maybe running from something that's hunting you, and your foot lands wrong. You go down hard, and you feel it before you hear it. Your femur, the thick bone in your thigh, the strongest bone in the entire human body, snaps clean in half. Today, that's an ambulance, a surgeon, a titanium rod, and 6 weeks of complaining. Back then, there is no ambulance, no cast, no painkiller stronger than whatever you can chew. You cannot walk, you cannot hunt, you cannot run from anything. Out here, a broken leg isn't an injury, it's a death sentence. Except, it wasn't always. There's a famous story, often attributed to the anthropologist Margaret Mead, though there's no solid record she actually said it. Supposedly, a student asked her what the first sign of civilization was. Not tools, not art, a healed femur. Because a broken thigh bone that healed means someone stayed, someone carried you, fed you, and protected you for the months it took to mend when they could have left you behind. Whether or not Mead said it, the fossil record says it for her, and it says it loudly. In 1957, an archaeologist named Ralph Selecki was digging in a cave in the mountains of Iraq when he uncovered a skeleton that would rewrite what we thought ancient humans were capable of. First, understand why a broken femur is so lethal without modern medicine. The thigh bone is wrapped in huge muscle and a major artery. A bad break can cause life-threatening internal bleeding within hours. Even if you survive that, you're immobilized. And in a world where survival meant walking, gathering, and fleeing, being unable to move was usually fatal on its own. On top of that, an open fracture invites infection, and there are no antibiotics. So, surviving a broken bone in the ancient world required solving three problems: the bleeding, the immobility, and the infection. And crucially, none of those could be solved alone. Every one of them required other people. That's the key that unlocks this entire story. The assumption is that prehistoric life was every human for themselves, brutal, short, and pitiless, where the injured were simply left behind. The skeleton Selecki found says otherwise. It's known as Shanidar I, a Neanderthal man who lived roughly 45,000 years ago. And this individual was, frankly, a catalog of catastrophic injury. He had a crushing blow to the left side of his skull that likely blinded him in one eye. He had a withered, damaged right arm that had been useless for years, possibly amputated below the elbow. He had healed fractures in his foot and leg, leaving him with a limp. Any one of these should have killed him quickly. And yet, the bones tell us he lived for years, possibly decades, after these injuries. A one-eyed, one-armed, limping man does not survive that long in an Ice Age landscape by himself. He survived because his group refused to let him die. They fed him. They sheltered him. They kept a disabled man alive when there was, coldly speaking, no survival advantage in doing so. That is compassion, fossilized. But keeping someone alive is one thing. Actually setting a broken bone so it heals straight enough to use again, that's a genuine medical skill. So, how did they do it? The evidence points to techniques far older and more sophisticated than we tend to assume. To set a fracture, you need to pull the bone back into alignment, traction, and then hold it there while it knits, which takes weeks. Ancient healers did exactly this using splints, rigid supports of wood, bark, or reed, padded with leaves or hide, and bound tight with cord or sinew. And we have physical proof this was a developed craft. From ancient Egypt, archaeologists have recovered splints made of wood and bark, wrapped in linen, still bound around the broken limbs of bodies thousands of years old. One of the oldest surgical documents in existence, an Egyptian text known as the Edwin Smith Papyrus, describes the examination and management of fractures with startling clinical calm. How to recognize the break, how to bind it, when the case is treatable, and when it isn't. This isn't guesswork. This is a medical tradition with rules, written down over 3,500 years ago and clearly inherited from far earlier. Quick one. Have you ever broken a bone yourself? Drop which one in the comments. I want to see the collective damage report. And if you're finding this as quietly astonishing as I do, a like genuinely helps the channel. Now, the pain and the infection. This is where it gets grim and impressive. Setting the bone is only half the battle. The person then has to survive weeks of agony and the constant threat of infection. And here, ancient healers were working with a pharmacy we're only now fully respecting. For pain and fever, many cultures independently discovered the bark and leaves of the willow tree. Willow contains salicin, the natural chemical ancestor of the compound in modern aspirin. People chewing willow bark for pain weren't being superstitious. They were self-medicating with a genuine analgesic, thousands of years before anyone could name the molecule. For infection, there was honey, which is naturally antibacterial and was packed into wounds across the ancient world. Along with certain resins and plant compounds we now know have real antiseptic properties. Some cultures even used maggots deliberately, because certain species eat only dead tissue and leave healthy flesh alone, cleaning a wound better than a blade. Put it together, and the picture inverts. These weren't helpless people waiting to die. They could reline a fracture, immobilize it, dull the pain with a plant that contains aspirin's active ingredient, and fight infection with honey. Medicine, real medicine, is far older than farming, older than writing, older than cities. It is one of the very first things we did for each other. And that's the part that reaches all the way to you. Because the deepest lesson in Shanidar, one's bones, isn't about splints or willow bark. It's about the fact that someone bothered. Every advance that followed, the setting, the medicine, the surgery, only mattered because our ancestors made a choice that nature doesn't require, to care for a member of the group who couldn't contribute, who cost them food and effort and safety, on the pure bet that a person is worth keeping alive. That instinct is the actual foundation of medicine. The technology is just what we built on top of it. So, the next time you see a cast, or a crutch, or an ambulance, remember what it's really descended from. Not a machine. A decision made around a fire tens of thousands of years ago that you don't leave your people behind. So, how did ancient humans survive broken bones? By turning survival into a group project. They pulled the bone straight, splinted it, numbed the pain with willow, fought infection with honey, and above all, they stayed. The femur healed because someone refused to walk away. That's not just how they survived broken bones, it might be the moment we became human. If that landed, subscribe. We do one of these every week, and next, we stay on the body and go somewhere stranger. Because you do something several times in your life that, as far as we can tell, no other animal on Earth does. Not your dog, not a chimp, not a dolphin. When you feel something powerfully enough, salt water leaks out of your eyes. Crying from emotion is a genuinely bizarre, apparently useless trait, and we're the only species that has it. Why? That's next. I'll see you there.